Let's begin. Here are the threats. There are no threats in this position. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen to h4, check. Solution to the puzzle is Queen to a4. Queen takes pawn. Queen to a8, check. King to c7. Queen takes rook. Queen to d1, check. King to a2. Queen to d5, check. c4. Next puzzle, the threats are. There are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is h5. Pawn takes pawn. g6. c3. g7. c2. Promotes to queen. Next, here are the threats. Queen takes pawn, check. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. g5, check. Queen takes pawn, check. The puzzle is solved using g5, check. King to h3. Queen to f1, check. King to g4. Queen to e2, check. One more. Here are threats in puzzle position. Queen takes rook. Queen takes pawn, check. Rook takes pawn. Checks in this position are Queen to b5, check. Queen to d6, check. Queen to e7, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Knight to c5, check. Knight to f6, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen takes rook. Pawn takes knight. Queen takes pawn, check. Next, let us look at threats in puzzle position. Bishop takes pawn, check. Pawn takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. The checks are Bishop takes pawn, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen takes pawn, check. Rook takes queen. Rook to c1, check. King to h2. g3, checkmate. Another puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. Queen takes knight, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes queen. The checks are knight to e3, check. Queen to f3, check. Queen takes knight, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to a1, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen to a1, check. King to e2. Knight to f4, check. King to f3. Queen takes rook. Another one. Threats in this position are Queen takes pawn, check. The checks are Queen to d2, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to e3, check. Queen to e4, check. Queen to e5, check. Queen to g3, check. Queen to c1, check. Answer to this puzzle is Bishop to c2. Queen to e3. g5, check. King to e5. Queen takes queen, check. Let's continue. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are Rook takes queen. There are no checks in this position. The answer is Rook takes queen. Rook takes pawn. Rook to h1. Let us go to the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are Knight takes pawn. The checks are Bishop to d7, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook to c1. Knight takes bishop. Pawn takes knight. Queen takes rook. Queen takes queen, check. Another puzzle. Threats in this position are Knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes knight, check. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. The checks are Knight takes knight, check. Solution to the puzzle is Knight to g3. Queen to e8. Knight takes bishop. Another one. The threats are Bishop takes pawn. Rook takes pawn, check. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Checks in this position are Rook takes pawn, check. The answer is Knight takes pawn. Knight takes knight. Queen takes bishop. Another puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. Queen takes pawn, check. The checks are Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to e3, check. Solution to the puzzle is Queen to e3, check. Rook to f2. Queen takes bishop. Queen to h5, check. King to g8. Another one. Threats in this position are Rook takes knight. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Queen takes pawn. Checks in puzzle position are Rook to e2, check. Queen to b7, check. Queen to e4, check. The puzzle is solved using Rook takes knight. Pawn takes rook. Rook to e2, check. Rook to f2. Queen to e4, check. Let's continue. Here are threats in puzzle position. Rook takes rook. There are no checks in this position. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook to c8. King to h3. Rook takes pawn. One more. The threats are: knight takes pawn. Rook takes pawn. Rook takes bishop. There are no checks in this position. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook to d2. Rook takes rook. Bishop takes rook. One more. The threats are: bishop takes bishop. Queen takes bishop. Checks in this position are: queen to e6, check. Queen to e7, check. Queen to e8, check. Queen to h5, check. The best move in puzzle position is queen to e7, check. King to g6. Rook to g1, check. King to f5. Queen to e5, checkmate. Next puzzle. Here are the threats. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. Bishop takes bishop. Rook takes bishop. The checks are: queen takes pawn, check. Queen to h6, check. Answer to this puzzle is: rook takes bishop. Rook takes rook. d5. f5. Pawn takes rook. Next, puzzle position vulnerabilities are: rook takes queen. Bishop takes bishop. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes bishop, check. The checks are: queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes bishop, check. Solution to the puzzle is: queen takes bishop, check. King to d2. Rook to d8, check. Queen to d4. Queen to e4. Let us go to the next puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes rook. Queen takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. The answer is: queen takes rook. Queen to a5. Queen to b2. Let's continue. The threats are: there are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Bishop to b3. Bishop to b4, check. King to d3. Rook takes knight. Promotes to queen. Another puzzle. Threats in this position are: king takes rook. Bishop takes rook. There are no checks in this position. The puzzle is solved using: king takes rook. Queen to h7. g6. Queen takes pawn. Queen to d2. Next, puzzle position vulnerabilities are: king takes knight. Knight takes bishop. Queen takes bishop, check. Queen takes rook. Here are the checks. Rook to d3, check. Knight to h5, check. Knight to e4, check. Queen to h4, check. Queen takes bishop, check. Queen to f4, check. Queen to e3, check. Queen to e5, check. Solution to the puzzle is: rook to d3, check. King to f2. Knight takes bishop, check. Queen takes knight. Queen takes queen. Bishop to e5, check. King takes knight. Next, threats in this position are: queen takes knight, check. The checks are: queen takes knight, check. The answer is: king to g4. Queen to f6. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. King takes knight. Let's see the next puzzle. Threats in this position are: there are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. The best move in puzzle position is: rook to d1. Rook to d3. Rook takes rook. Pawn takes rook. King to d2. Let us go to the next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: queen takes pawn. Pawn takes knight. Bishop takes bishop, check. Pawn takes queen. Checks in puzzle position are: bishop takes bishop, check. Answer to this puzzle is: pawn takes knight. Queen to c3. Bishop takes bishop, check. Queen takes bishop. Bishop to c8. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.